Welcome to day 2 of BSI Showcase in IGCM conference. We're discussing about AI technology.
Our function as the national standards body is to be independent and to be neutral and to provide a platform for you the people, the experts, government regulators, international experts to shape the consensus that you want in any area and then to see that rolled out and taken up.
Artificial intelligence describes a class of tools, methods and approaches. So it's not one thing. We tend to think about it, or we tend to anthropomorphize it, right? So we tend to think about artificial intelligence as a human-like or, better than human intelligence. Potentially will take over the world. But in reality, as was mentioned earlier, it really is just a set of tools, methods and approaches to do specific types of things that one would expect of human intelligence. So those things might be predicting, translating, speaking, in the case of voice assistants. And most of the systems that we see on the market rely on machine learning. So that's the method they use. So you'll often hear machine learning and artificial intelligence used almost synonymously. It's not quite true. Artificial intelligence is the umbrella and machine learning is one of the methods. But even so, you can sort of quite comfortably know that those two things have a relationship in that way.
The vision was for Scotland to become a leader in trustworthy, ethical and inclusive AI. Anyone who's ever seen me speak before will hear me say those three words a lot. And with kind of a sub-aim of making Scotland a fairer, greener, more prosperous and outward-looking country. So that's the vision that was laid out in the strategy. It was a really people-centered national strategy for AI. Our entire approach is about, is the fact that AI has the potential to truly transform how we live, work and learn for the better. But what's key about our approach is that we don't present it as being inevitable. We need to make sure that it's for the benefit of the many and not the few.
AI brings a lot of benefits. Some of the benefits are how fast it can make decisions. It can learn new patterns. It can adapt to new environments. So all these are relevant to healthcare. So it can improve the triage process by being faster. It can bring specialized healthcare in areas that we don't have specialized clinicians. But this also comes with risks because of those benefits. So the capabilities of AI to improve our lives also have a number of risks involved. But as it's always the case in any product, there is always a benefit to risk ratio we need to consider.
Universities are a little bit less encumbered than, say, policymakers or industry or civil society. They don't have the same constraints. I think that's part of the joy of being an academic, is the sort of the freedom. So I think universities can open discussions in areas that other people can't, potentially are much freer in what they're able to do, and have more of a power to convene because they're not seen as being inherently political in themselves. So I think that's probably the main contribution.
Right now, everyone is trying to position themselves to be a leader, a global leader on AI. And from a personal perspective, I think there is an opportunity for UK to do something different, to maybe wind back the narrative of growth, and perhaps maybe take a more society-centric, human-centric approach.
AI can improve and support breast screening by reducing workload and leading to additional cancers detected.
One of the kind of key aspects that we look at, though, is really the long-term sustainability of digital within our mental health services. And this requires a huge number of different aspects, from clinical leadership through to the right type of evaluation, building evidence, but also looking at new and emerging technologies.
And what you do to make AI fit for purpose is you listen to your audience, you listen to your customers and your supply chain, and you work together to make that happen. That's where standards are very, very helpful. They set a conversation, if you wish, to make things safer.
So almost every supply chain project starts with, if we had all the access to all the data from every supplier, we can do X, Y, Z. But that transparency doesn't exist. There's various levels of privacy, and I think it's having some integration, interoperability between different systems would make a huge difference.
We need to better align the incentives around responsible AI. So at the moment we have different incentives from different sectors. The private sector really is, largely profit-making, of course, by its nature. And then you have, the academic sector, where we are driven by things like the research excellence framework, or driven by things like, having to publish and, teaching. And so those different drivers and incentives alter how we engage with responsibility in the ways that we, I suppose, put our knowledge out into the world, but also engage with others. And there needs to be perhaps a little bit more of an alignment of those things. So, perhaps around human values, for example.
But healthcare, absolutely, the potential for AI to transform healthcare for the better, for whether it's operational efficiencies or whether it's improving accuracy of early interventions, scans, diagnostics, pathology, etc. And then in life sciences, drug discovery, etc. AI can make such a huge difference there.
And it goes without saying that artificial intelligence is really evolving the way we work, the way we interact with one another, and the way we find our information. But one thing that we do want to plug the gap on today is the sustainability considerations.
But it's one of the most challenging standardisation arenas I've worked in. I've been a standards maker for the last 10 years. What people question me about is, it's a nascent area, how can you possibly standardise it? You can standardise the core of this, because everybody will need support to be able to interact in this arena.
We're here to protect people and places from product-related harm. That's the thing that guides us. So when we think about regulating anything, we have that always at the forefront.
My most recent experience, does give assurance that AI is here. It is working very well in law enforcement to help protect communities, particularly in counter-terrorism, obviously, and child sexual exploitation, and that whole human trafficking trade as well.
Fundamentally, the problem with AI is the data changes all the time. So hash doesn't work, encryption doesn't work. Who had a say in that in order for me to trust and use it? We have to do that. We have to extend the cybersecurity.
How can people safely deploy AI and to comply with non-existent regulations, because they've not really been there yet?
How do we ensure that that works in practice? And that's particularly where conformity assessment works, testing a product, inspecting a device, certifying, perhaps it's an AI bill of materials, that system has worked. And accreditation is a layer above that to, on behalf of government and society, to make sure that system works.
It's a global need. This is not something that we do, but I think we are all looking for UK to take a leading role.
There's this concept of an AI bomb, and trusted AI bomb is what we're particularly looking at, which is, I have an AI system, what are all the components of that?
Businesses are really keen to do the right thing, but it's very difficult to know what the right thing is at the moment. We spend a lot of time engaging with businesses and organisations in Scotland around what support do you need to implement or develop AI in a trustworthy, ethical and inclusive way, what challenges do you face and what are your barriers?
So the standards have always been the ground truth for the assessment of AI. So they will play a very important role. However, the problem with AI is that the AI technologies advance very fast and the standardization process is quite slow. So we will need a balance of developing new standards and addressing new AI techniques.
Global standards, well, I think they offer a framework, like a common language and a common framework for engagement. They allow something for people to, huddle round, essentially, but, a common sort of lexicon, a common framework, common set of rules and understandings, and they also create a sort of a trust matrix, and trust is such an important component of responsibility, not just from the user perspective, but also from the perspective of all the people involved in the ecosystem. I think standards are sort of a shorthand way of getting us there, essentially.
I think standards has a massive role. People always talk about regulation, and they don't really talk about standards enough. But the thing is, standards, regulation are two sides of the same coin. Essentially, they are, in order to provide this safeguards, the guardrails to responsible AI innovation or any technology innovation, really, you need a combination of standards and regulation.
And the key thing is that if we get this right, and we must get this right, we can make sure we build a future where AI is a force for good and is underpinned by trust and responsibility. So thank you everybody, and good night.